This is the Heavy Hitter Club channel. Is Chat GPT a doomsday device or a savior? Is it, are we going into the matrix, or is it going to provide the saving grace for humankind? I mean, what's happening? I mean, you've all seen the advances of AI, and then I figured out how to convert text to anybody talk. I had heard Rob talk about it, and I was able to train the AI, the model, to take two. It takes two recordings, 2 minutes each, and then you got that person's voice. I mean, to a T. No joke. It's that person's voice, and you can play with the controls and make it more exact. I diddled around with it a little bit because I wanted it to be like I wanted to provide a little bit of comedy to the situation, a little bit of levity, but it's scary shit too, man. Let me pull this up. I'll share the DC part of the recording with the group, Rob, because that's funny. It's funny. Let me see. Where do I have it? So remember, this is for entertainment purposes only.
DC Glenn, the brain supreme. Go ahead, say it. You know you want to. The moment you heard his name, you thought it. Say it. Whoomp! There it is, with sprinkles.
Guys, have a listen. It's only a few seconds long, but I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what you can do. At any rate, again, to start this off, and I want you guys to let me know if you want to come in. Let me know in chat if you want to come in and participate. I am interested in what you think. The question is Chat GPT a doomsday device or a savior?
Okay, cool. So yeah, so regarding your question, I actually thought of it as much like an overhyped tool, more like against the whole GPT thing, for most of its existence actually since November, even though you were doing all those webinars. The turning point though was I think it was 2 weeks ago or more, but you shared with us the slideshow that you made about like prompt engineering, and so I decided to take that and kind of play around with like giving it a role to play and stuff like that. And I found that, strangely enough, it's only been helpful to me. Like even though strange as it sounds, for in some, even though like I'm an SEO and that's Google's where I get most of my money from, I like in some cases it's actually a lot more useful, or like a lot more convenient, I guess, to just ask this bot something, provided you're following what you outlined in your PowerPoint or whatever, versus going on to like Google search, where there's like, I can compare it to, you ever hear about people just searching a question in Google and then writing Reddit at the end so that they only get like Reddit results, because everything else is so hard to, like, you just want to see like a personalized anecdote or whatever from Reddit. This is similar to it, where like you can get almost like a personalized, or at least a summarized view of a specific question. Like with the prompt engineering, you can get very, very specific, whereas in Google you have to really look for an answer to a very specific question, because it seems like we get all these problems daily of like, recently I was a good example actually. So I'm an actor, right? And I like to watch old movies and kind of watch them through the eyes of an acting student, right? And for some movies, it's very easy to see like, what actor does this, or what choices he makes with this or whatever. But but after another example of your PowerPoint coming into play, I gave the bot the role of an acting student, right? Just based on my circumstances alone. Like, you know, I told it what jobs I've gotten, my experience. I pretty much just told it, you are Mo, basically. And then it started to spit out these movies to watch, these actors to watch. And then it started outlining what makes this actor specifically, you know, what did he do here that someone else didn't do there? And why should you, given your history and what you've told me about yourself, you know, do this, right? And that was just so much easier than just like going to Google, for example, or Wikipedia and then searching like, you know, just a simple Spencer Tracy movie list. Like this one actually told me, what did Tracy do in this scene? Or like, what is he doing throughout the whole movie? And granted, there's always, Marco, there's always the veneer of this bot may not be telling me accurate information. So I've accepted that. So I kind of, whenever it tries to sell me something, I make sure like before I take it truly to heart, I do some research besides that, you know, like on Google or whatever. But as a whole, I think, you know, obviously I'm not as old as you, Marco, but I can only imagine this is what it feels like. This is what it felt like for like people in the late 90s, early 2000s who were using like search engines before a lot of other people did. And you kind of get this feeling like you're playing with something very, very powerful that most of the population, they're either mildly aware of, or they're using it without any of the knowledge that, you know, you shared in that PowerPoint, which admittedly even that was just scratching the surface. So that's kind of my spiel on that.
So you find it helpful?
I find it, I think you can use it for sure, but I think like in terms of productivity, it's certainly a powerful tool. I think it's up to you to, or up to the person, up to the user to make it worth their while.
All right. Anybody else got something? Because all right, so AI in general, what is that to you? What does that mean to you? Artificial intelligence.
Well, that's a good question. I just think of it as well, now I just think of it as like, you know, this and stuff like Mid-Journey and, you know, the generative software, which you know, the generative stuff, but there's so much, I admit there's so much more to that, but to me that's its relevance to me right now. Obviously it could get more like the general AI, like AI in general. I think that's something, maybe it has its dangers, but in terms of a purely like a chatbot sense, where this is basically just like an autocomplete, it's very much a useful thing if you overlook the inaccuracies and the biases inherent in that.
Rob, I know you have opinions about AI.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I have. I'm a paradox, and I can argue both sides to each coin, right? So I can see all the things that Mo's saying. I can see the great use of it, no different than I can see the great use of the internet or a cell phone or, you know, any technological advancement, right?
Mhm.
But with each technical, and how, you know, Facebook's amazing, right? But it can also be a disaster. Twitter's an amazing tool, but can also be a disaster. So there's always the yin or the, what do they say, the yin and yang or whatever to each thing. My fear, I guess, if I'll go from the fear side, because I can mimic everything that Mo just said, as far as it being good. There's a lot of benefits to it. It's helped me to do some coding things that normally I'd have to spend probably an hour or two watching YouTube videos and searching, where it can just write the base code for me and then I can tweak things, right? Where normally you'd have to go to GitHub and download, you know, coding and change variables and blah, 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 stuff like that. For people that understand what it is, right? So you're coming at it, or people coming at it that understand that it may not be accurate is that's the part that's unnerving to me. Because for many,
I mean, before you go on with this,
yeah.
How do we get people to understand what it is? Because
I'm not sure. I'm not sure we do.
If you've read my Facebook post when I go and prompt the group to come to the webinar, right? I tell them, you can't know what you don't know, so come and ask the question. If you don't ask the questions, you can't know. So if you don't have that curiosity to go online and find out what it is you're doing, you're going to stay here floating like in an endless ocean, first of all, because there's no horizon, but also there is no bottom. And you're here, you're treading water, and you don't know. Why? Because you can't know what you don't know unless you go and ask or find it out. Like from something like this, where we start dealing with it, where we start talking about it, where we start peeling back the layers of what it is. But go ahead.
Yeah, so that's my fear, right? 99% of the population will never even get as close to peeling back the layers as the people that are in our groups. And then the people that are in our groups, 99% of the people in those groups that are actually doing SEO won't even get to the point of peeling back the layers to really understand what they're talking about. That's the fear, right? Because I interact on a daily basis with people that don't, they are still amazed and mesmerized at the fact that they can look at something on Amazon. And then when they go to Facebook, they're like, holy cow, that ad is there. How is that possible? Right? That's still that simplistic piece of a pixel tracking that you looked at Amazon and it shows you the ad on Facebook. They think that's voodoo magic. They think that's magic phone sorcery, that your phone knows what you're doing and all those things, which it is, but we understand that all it is a pixel that knows that you visited a website and the cookies are talking that, it's sending ones and zeros that go along with the ones and zeros that say what your, email address is or your Mac ID is, and then serving up other ones and zeros of products that it knows you've looked at before. That's all it is. It's a bunch of that stuff. But people think it's just this magical, whimsical land of fairy dust, right? And that's the internet. And the fact that the scary part is that people won't dig any deeper. And now, just like you hear, there's a reason there's memes that says, oh, it must be true. It was on the internet, right? That's a joke. Well, every joke has a basis in reality, right? That wouldn't be a joke if everybody understood that just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true, right? People do that because people say, well, I saw it on the internet. So, it's got to be true. Google wouldn't put something on there. It's not true. Right? That truly is people's belief system. As crazy as we laugh and joke, and we all think, how absurd is that? Because we're the very people who are putting stuff on websites to make Google show what we want shown, right? People think, look, Google they've sourced all the people, they've researched every website there is, and they know that there's just absolute truth to it. Well, now Chat GPT is even, I would say, scarier than that, because we always talk about where's the worst place to hide or the best place to hide the dead bodies on the second page of Google, right? Because nobody goes to the second page of Google. Well, the fear is now nobody goes outside of Chat GPT to get their answers. So then you're not even looking at 10 possible answers to your question. You're looking at a singular answer that's been scraped from the web, that's been coded based on biases or lack thereof biases or whatever, right? And not even intentional bias, but just of a computer digesting all this information on the web and spitting back a result to you with no basis on whether that result is actually true or not, which blew up in Google's face when they launched their AI to a live audience and it brought back the wrong information. And people are like, oh my gosh, theirs is horrible. No, it just, you could search that exact same question in Chat GPT and it brought you the exact same wrong answer, because it just searched the web and that's what it found the most consensus about, even though it was factually wrong. So it had categorized that was accurate, even though it wasn't accurate. So it had, in our world, it had associated this fact with the wrong question. It's kind of like you associate something with the wrong brand. The AI model had associated two wrong things and presented it to people as fact. And then people would have just took that and said, oh yeah, the United States was founded in 1927. Because if they just search Chat GPT and that says when the US was created, they'll, oh yeah, I saw it on the internet. That's my fear, right? And then you get into the Yeah, go ahead.
Before you go, what people also don't understand is that we can insert algorithmic bias. And in this case, we can insert bias into the AI, into the database. And if you do that enough, and if you give it the wrong answer enough to the right question, it's going to bring you back the incorrect answer. It might just do that because at that point, one word that you included in the prompt, in what you write, for those of you who don't know, in what you write into the chat window, one word can change the meaning of the question so that it will bring back the wrong answer. Maybe you've been talking about something different in the chat. Maybe it's been helping you for writing. Suddenly you want to know about something else. It's still remembering everything that you wrote about writing content, and it will introduce information from that conversation rather than the new conversation, because it doesn't know that you started a new conversation. And we can just go on down the line as to how many things you can do wrong without intentionally doing it incorrectly. There are people who are doing this with a purpose, who are trying to change filters, to get through filters, to get through the safety measures. They're trying to break through it because there's people, well, I'm gonna categorize them into this: people who are just so inquisitive that they want to know how far they can go. They just want to push the envelope. And then there are those who just want to use it for the wrong reasons, wrong purposes. However you want to categorize that sector of people who just want to figure out how to use it for whatever it is that they want to get. So that's another thing that people need to understand. It is a great tool. It is. I mean, I'm finding it really helpful. But as you're saying, the average Joe, Jane, who goes into this software needs to have at least a basic understanding of what it is, or be really inquisitive and start playing with it enough to know how to get results from it. I mean, we started testing with extensions. We started testing it through the API. We were originally in to you and I know you were, and I know and we still are into the playground. When it went beta, we got in. When they offered OpenAI, we got in. The API, we got in. When they offered the ability to for training models, we got in. We've been training with natural language processing. What for? But like I can't remember when we inserted the AI into a searchable database, so that it would help us categorize the database, so that we can filter through everything. And because we have so much or so many videos and so much information that is hard to consume. And so we needed to give them a way to get in. And by the way, guys, we're training the model as we speak. Again, on the Heavy Hitter Club videos, we're categorizing them. They've been tagged, and so I'm not going to make any promises, but I think that's another announcement that's coming by the time the charity webinars come up, which we were already adding to the calendar. By the time those come up, I think we're going to have, and I say think because I'm not sure, we're going to have a searchable database, and it does use AI. It was when Google came out with BERT. The first thing we did with BERT is put it into a search. We added an interface into one of the lessons that we had, and put a search function in there, and off it went into all of our videos. So that was really cool. We're doing it again, but I mean that's a great use of AI. Really wicked use would be, as I spoke before, there's people who are saving encrypted information, so that when quantum computing is made available, they can go in and decrypt in 10 minutes, what would take probably years now, because I mean people are using stronger and stronger passwords. Will now take what, 10-15 minutes, and you've got the whole thing decrypted. And so there's people who are anticipating how they are going to incorrectly or for the wrong purpose use something that's not yet available. How wicked, I mean, or the mind that's behind that. If they would put it to good use, imagine the things that they could do. But the one thing that they're thinking is, I'm going to save all of these credit card numbers. I'm going to save all of these people's information. As soon as I get hold of quantum, it's all over for these people. I'm going to steal all their money. So, I mean, yeah, I'm with you that if you don't know what you should know, you can get into a whole lot of trouble, man.
Yeah, and
Go
that's
ahead, Tom.
99.9% of the population that walk this
But then,
circle.
but then
Mo?
what's the solution for that, guys? Like, if are we just kind of doomed to have a world where, like, you know, the Minnesota nice people that Rob's talking about, do we just, like, you know, what are they gonna do? Like they're gonna end up using the bot, for example, and they're gonna come out with like a homogeneous view of something if the bot's always given the same, given like
Guys, come
one.
on. So here now we have a very valid question. There are people who are already planning what they're wrongly going to use software that's not yet available for. So imagine the planning, imagine the mind that it takes. There's a lot of planning, there's a lot of knowledge. I mean, you have to have that kind of mind, and so if you have that, how do we then? How do we change that? How do we stop that? Is it even our job? I don't want to be the AI police. I don't want to be the guy telling you don't do that. That's on you, man. That's I'm not the morality police. I'm not the ethics police. You know, I'll be the first one to violate a Google terms of service if it's convenient for me. So how can I tell you don't do that?
We kind of already live in that world, honestly. Like, look where people consume their news, right? You can normally, based on where someone, if you would just go ask someone, where do you get most of your news sources? You're going to know their opinions, right?
Mhm.
Whether good, bad, or indifferent. If someone says, I only watch one channel or one source, or I watch 5 or 6 sources, or I listen to podcasts and here's the podcast, you can pretty much know, at least to a certain degree, right? Where people are based on the amount of information they consume, and if they consume it from multiple different biases.
Mhm.
But that's the fear with Chat GPT, and not Chat GPT. That's just the fear with AI in general, because Chat GPT and OpenAI is just one of many that are coming online fast. People may get stuck in their echo chambers, right? Which is where I said Facebook's great and Twitter's great and all those things. They're great tools, but I'm sure you also know that, you know, just do a test. Go on Facebook and search for, you know, puppies, and click on about 15 puppy articles, and then you'll see that everything that's sent to you is going to be about puppies. That's all you'll see. Or go search something about, you know, World War III and read about 7 or 8 articles on that, and then everything in your Facebook feed is about how the world's about to end and we're all going to die tomorrow from a nuclear war, right? And depending on how people interact with these new technologies is going to frame their whole worldview. And sadly, people get stuck in their little echo chambers. And I mean, it can go multiple ways depending on if this now starts to pique people's curiosity, so they start looking outside of their current echo chambers. That would be good. Or it could even, with the deep fakes, I'm sure people have been hearing about. I mean, at this point, you can fake a person's face. You can fake images. Like, we look at images as, oh man, we can now create these new images for our plumbing company, or I can create all these new, you know, non-stock images for vehicles or all this stuff, right? Which is great because we know how pain of a butt and how much Google likes images. But then it also is horrible because I can then go fake a bunch of images of Marco, you know, punching somebody in the street and say, did you know that he did this? And then he's on the defensive for some random jerk that put a photo out there, and then I can dub his voice and put a voiceover at it of him yelling while he's doing it, right? With all these new voice recognitions and fake videos. It's just crazy.
I mean, I totally agree. And Mo, You can't. It's policed right now. It's intended to stop people from doing this. But I mean, the old axiom, people are people. And so is that the software? Is that whether Chat GPT or AI or any other software or any other tool, whether it's good or bad, because it's really indifferent, or maybe we can even call it, Jordan uses that word a lot, agnostic, where it doesn't care either way. It's neither. So here's the thing. Today, somewhere in the world, somebody got killed, and the weapon of choice was a hammer.
Right.
Many more people were stabbed and killed. Does that mean that a knife is bad? Just a knife. Does that mean that a hammer is bad? Oh,
Not
no, the people who used it, even if you used it for self-defense, that wasn't the intent. I mean, maybe you had a meat cleaver or whatever. The intent of a meat, it's in the name, is to cleave meat. You happen to use it on somebody's head. That's on you. This is the Heavy Hitter Club channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell.